Nicol Bolas is the most famous of the original Elder Dragons, and there are a couple of very good reasons for that. Nicol Bolas is a 7/7 legendary Elder Dragon that costs 2 generic mana and 2 blue, 2 black, and 2 red mana, making it an 8 mana creature that's very hard to cast. Still, it shares this trait with the other Elder Dragons, and it also requires an upkeep of blue, black, and red, another trait it shares with the rest of the Elder Dragons. However, Nicol Bolas is unique in that its ability is actually pretty decent. When Nicol Bolas deals damage to an opponent, that player discards their hand. That's pretty fucking brutal, and Nicol Bolas is the only Elder Dragon that might be good enough for 1v1 60 card play. It's still difficult to cast, a removal magnet, and requires heavy investment. But if you hit once, it's usually over for your opponent. Nicol Bolas can be cheated out like any of the other Elder Dragons, but unlike the other cards, there's some reason to try with Nicol Bolas. If you rip their hand, it's pretty much over. Nicol Bolas still isn't a dominant strategy or anything like that, but it can work. Still, like the other Elder Dragons, this is much better as a commander card, and this is the strongest of the Elder Dragons. Its color identity is incredible. You can argue that white might be more useful as a support color than red, but red is a really solid support color. I obviously don't think Nicol Bolas is good enough for modern commander, and at its best it's just a way to get other people not to play with you because it either doesn't work or it does and then they are pissed. But Nicol Bolas is reasonably strong in old border commander games. Like the rest of the Elder Dragons, I think there are better options. I'd probably rather run a Gwendolyn DeCourcy, but Nicol Bolas isn't bad. The ability is bombastic and ruthless, but it does come down slow, and I'd be shocked if people aren't holding back removal so they don't have their hand ripped away. Nicol Bolas is interesting, and the ability is certainly powerful, but I still don't think it's likely to be good. It is such a cool card though. Nicol Bolas is the big cheese of the Elder Dragons though, having become a planeswalker and the big bad guy on several occasions. He's also been the most retconned out of the Elder Dragons. These days, Nicol Bolas was a runt, being only half the size of the other Elder Dragons because he was a twin born of the same egg as Ugin. Ugin was another retcon, and another Elder Dragon whose spark ignited, but I don't really have time to go over their entire lore. The point is that Nicol Bolas is smart, cunning, and dangerous as well as usually evil. Because Nicol Bolas has been more showcased than the other Elder Dragons, we do have a bit more art to talk about, so we might as well talk about the art. Oh yeah, and there's 6 Nicol Bolas cards, most of which are planeswalkers, but I really don't want to go into detail about these cards. Just trust that most of them are probably better than the original. The original art was illustrated by Edward P. Beard Jr., which is a growing theme here with the Elder Dragons, and this one is fantastic. I really like this art because it shows this dragon just vibing with his books. That's such a mood, and I really like the different approach to the dragons. Most media showcases the more bestial side of dragons because they're big and terrifying, but they are also usually incredibly intelligent, and I like that a lot of the Elder Dragon art leans into that side of the dragons. I think that's super cool. This art also got reprinted into Time Spiral, which is pretty sweet, but we do have 4 other arts to talk about, so let's move on. Nicol Bolas was reprinted into From the Vault Dragons with a new art. This version was illustrated by D. Alexander Gregory, and I really like this version. I am a bit disappointed that it leans into the bestial ferocity of the dragons, but it does a fantastic job of that, and it is an important aspect of dragons. This art is really well done. I like the style and I think it's cool as hell. Now, if you've seen the other Elder Dragon videos, you're probably expecting this, but there's a stained glass treatment in a secret layer. This art is cool as hell. I think it's the least favorite I've shown, but it is really cool, and I think it does a fantastic job of showing off Nicol Bolas's arrogance. He looks so pleased with himself in this image, and I think that's fantastic. This was illustrated by Benjamin E., and I think it's insanely well done. Like I said, it's probably my least favorite art, but I do still enjoy it. Then, if you can read Japanese, you can use this promo illustrated by Takayama Toshiokai. This art is phenomenal. I prefer the classic Bolas, but the execution on this piece is incredible. The perspective is well done, and the art popping out of the frame is such a fun treatment when they do that. This piece is so cool, it's very well done. But yeah, that's the art for Nicol Bolas. This card is pretty interesting in my opinion. I find it weird how far the gap in power level is between the Elder Dragons. It's funny to think about how inexperienced the original developers were when designing some of these early sets, but their heart was in the right place. And these Elder Dragon cards were beloved, despite the fact that they sucked and being legendary is strictly a downside. That's pretty cool. That you can make something this shit and people will still love it just on the rule of cool. It's an interesting lesson in game design. I guess that's all I have to say on Nicol Bolas. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject if you're interested. You can also like the video if you liked it. You can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thanks for watching.